Karen from Countyfairgrounds USA, countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
Hi, this is Heidi Herriott, who works with horses that I have on the line with me.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Heidi. I'm looking at your website, and so you're a horse trainer, and you do shows at fairs and events?
That's correct. I'm a third-generation horse trainer and entertainer, and a good portion of my business is doing shows, working as an entertainer, doing ground shows at fairs and festivals.
So I take it you have a lot of horses, right?
I don't have a lot because I travel, so I have 5 horses that I bring with me, and some of those are miniature horses. And one of my miniature horses was on America's Got Talent. He's a little trick horse. So he's always pretty popular, little white guy, and named Lucky Star. And so we do a half-hour show with the horses. I usually have my daughter or another performer with me. And our most recent show is called the Rhinestone Cowgirls.
Right. I'm looking at your website. So how long does the show last?
30 minutes.
And how long have you been doing that particular show?
We've had that show on tour for 3 years.
Okay. Do you want to tell us some of the places you've done and some of your favorite experiences?
Sure. One of the fun fairs, I hadn't been to Texas in a while, and we did the Amarillo Tri-State Fair in 2017, I guess, and that was fun, a whole different vibe out in Texas, because a lot of times we're in the East. We did a fair in Indiana, Valparaiso, Indiana, which is a really great fair, and then all the way over to South Carolina and back to Texas. So, your route can take you everywhere, but it's a lot of fun. I love traveling, and my horses are really good travelers. So
you actually travel with all 5 horses?
I have, again, some of them are miniatures, so it makes the load a lot lighter. But yeah, they're good travelers. They load right up, and like, where are we headed next? We're in Wyoming right now.
Yeah, I hate to ask you the inevitable question. Has the COVID stuff bothered you at all?
It really worked out fortunate for me this year because I didn't have a lot of fairs booked this year because I got offered a job to work at a ranch out in Wyoming to train horses and do shows for the summer. And he found the Rhinestone Cowgirl show and thought that would be a great fit. So I'm out here for the summer. As it turns out, almost everybody in the fair business, all my entertainer friends, have lost the bulk of their season, if not all, because even if a couple of the dates go, how do you afford the insurance, your annual insurance policy, just to go travel a lot of miles to do 1 or 2 spots that fit in nicely on a bigger route, Right. So it's really challenging, and I'm so thankful because it just happened this year. I kind of forayed off into the bit of the park world, and I've always done both, but it just worked out for me this year. I'm so thankful. So I am working.
Yes, a lot of the entertainers are having a very bad time, and if anybody knows that, I do. So it's really very sad. Okay, so you have 5 horses. How long does it take to train a horse? Do you get them when they were just foaled?
No, I don't. Actually, for the stuff I do, getting them too young is hard because you have to let them mature. And again, being on the road, then you'd be hauling around horses that are just growing up, and it's great. It's great to train that way. I just don't have that luxury because when you're on the road, you're just trying to be as compact as possible and not have a lot of extra horses on the lot and all that type of stuff. So I end up usually getting horses that are at least 3 years old or so, and training from there. And it takes me, like here at the ranch, I'm contracted to be here for 3 months. So it takes me about 12 weeks to train trick and liberty horses and riding horses. And then it's just getting them seasoned, if you will, kind of like people, right? If you train somebody to do an act for a show, you could train them the whole thing, but then they got to get comfortable in front of the audience and in the costumes and, on maybe a busy show schedule, all of that. So it's exactly the same for the animals. So it's really great to have a good, solid show season ahead of you when you've got what we call a green horse, because you just need him to keep doing it over and over to really cement it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, where did you learn to train horses?
I'm a third-generation horse trainer, and actually fourth generation in show business. My roots go back to the Miller Brothers 101 Ranch and Wild West Show, where my great-grandfather was. And my grandfather grew up there, part of his growing up, and he got involved with horses and started training, and then got involved with a lot of different species. So when I was a kid, my father, we had elephants, camels, llamas, zebras, horses, dogs, ponies, everything. So it was a great, absolutely great way to grow up. And so my parents are trainers. My grandfather was a trainer, and all my sisters. So it's a family business.
And I presume you never thought about doing anything else then?
I have, actually. I've done a few different things. I worked for the Florida Federation of Fairs Trade Association as the executive director, and I worked for the Outdoor Amusement Business Association, which is a trade association for the mobile amusement industry, running a subunit, a circus unit, as a manager. And the reason I got involved in that is because I was on the road working, and I realized that we didn't have a lot of representation. One of the big issues was the animal rights community, really pushing back against anybody who trained or performed with animals, especially if you were an entertainer, and just insurance, everything. So I started paying more attention to the business side of the industry and the trade associations, and I've always liked the business side of it. And so I got involved and felt like it was an opportunity to help make the business better. Ultimately, I missed the performing and traveling side, so I went back to that.
Yeah, I think that's an addiction, is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My father always said my dad always said it was a curse to because we got out there and took a bow and had spotlights, and it's like it's not the real world.
So you said you had sisters? Did you say that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they do.
I have three sisters. They're all in the business. One of my sisters is traveling with a circus that just reopened, doing small rodeo arenas. They're out in Missouri, and they're doing great business. Mm-hmm. And he's, limiting in the audience, but he's keeping his nut low, and it's going well. And another sister and her husband do circuses at fairs, and they've lost their work for the year. Mm-hmm. And then another sister dabbles in it a little bit more. She stays home more often. And her husband just had some major surgery, so they're sidelined anyhow. So, yep, but they all have animals, and everybody still trains, and our parents have passed away. But my dad was one of the innovators of having a small circus on fairs in the 1980s. He created a small tented circus, the Herriott Family Circus, and Wesley and Florine Oler, who were Vicky's parents, were wonderful people and wonderful, honest agents. And Wesley handled my dad, and so he went up and down the eastern seaboard for the better part of the 80s. He had a little 60 by 90 tent, a small footprint, because fairs don't want to give up space, right? Especially if you're not paying them for it, if you're an entertainer. And he did a little family circus, and it was just a great model. And unfortunately, when the tent, he didn't replace the tent when it got old and that kind of stuff. And it was a point in time when my sisters and I were all off kind of doing our own thing. But it was great. It was we all worked for him at different times, and wonderful part of our, world. And I love fairs. It's my favorite way to work, honestly.
Okay, so are you booked for anything else this year?
I am not. My plan was to come up here, or like in April, I was quarantined in Florida, getting ready to come up here. I also put a show together for a park in Pennsylvania in the end of April, and then I came here in late Memorial Day. So I figured in April I'd start looking around to book like the fall, which is a little late to book fairs, but some other things were possibilities. And then this quarantine and COVID happened, and everybody's been canceling stuff right and left. So I actually didn't pursue a lot of it. So right now I'm actually getting ready to put together next year, and I'm thinking about changing my track to a unicorn show.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, because we've done the cowgirl show. It's been fine. It wasn't quite received as well as I might have liked. And part of it I find is people will say when we're booking, we have horses at the fair. They don't realize, and I always say to them, think of it as a circus act, like we're a grounds show, because they think of all the competition and horse shows that they have, right? Mm-hmm. And some may realize the difference and just say, we'd rather not have horses. We want something else. So the unicorn, I have the little white horse, and he works as a unicorn a lot. And then I have 2 little Pegasus winged horses, and so I'm actually just working on some brochures and stuff to create a mystical, magical unicorn show that can serve as a strolling show and or a ground show. We could set up an area, or we can work, as a strolling act or on a particular stage or that type of thing. Okay. I'm thinking about trying that. It's so popular at this point. Everybody loves unicorns.
Yeah, everybody loves unicorns. I know. I agree with that. So do you have any kids? I have to ask that question.
Absolutely. I have 2 grown children, and they grew up traveling with me on the road, and then they'd go home and go to school. And then my daughter, my son was always helpful for the setup and tear down, and he's since become a personal trainer involved in the wellness world. So he was always happy to do the physical part, but he didn't have any. He likes the animals, but, you either have a real strong affinity or you don't. And my daughter actually has inherited the family ability to work with animals and connect with them. And she's also a beautiful aerialist, because we had an aerial act in our show as well. Mm-hmm. And then she went off to college, and she has worked with me on and off. And she's dabbling now more in the sports world. But she's coming to work with me next week, actually. So it's wonderful. It's a gift. I grew up working with my parents. It was our family business, and we went to school and came back. And so it's really fun. And so, yeah, they're both grown and doing great. Both have an education, which I'm thrilled about. I think it's one of the difficulties in our business is we have such talent and such wonderful performers and artists and such. But some of the generational families, especially from different countries, education can fall off, and I think it hurts our business.
Well, I'm educated. I have a degree in biology.
There you go. The show business is 3 syllables. 1 is show and 2 is business. Most people focus on the 1 syllable and forget the business.
Yeah.
And I find that to be true, because of sometimes the underbidding and the undercutting, and some of it's survival, and fairs budgets have, one of the great concerns I have is fairs budgets are always tight. I do mid-sized fairs, and, I'd love to get into more state fairs, but I love the smaller fairs, frankly. They're just so charming and such wonderful communities, but their budgets are tight. Imagine what next booking season is going to be like. We always hear, well, our money's tight, but with missing a whole season, I can't even imagine. So I'm really trying to get creative, which is where the unicorn show came about, because strolling is more affordable than doing a big ground show where you're really setting up the whole thing, So that was part of my motivation, because I think the budgets are just going to be so zipped up,
Yeah, I have entertainers going in all kinds of directions. I've got one that's going into the printing business. He's printing flyers and brochures. And another one learned how to do caricatures of people, and now he's driving around doing caricatures.
Yeah, it's tough, and I appreciate people's survival. I love people who are creative and figure things out and can reinvent themselves, or at least, find something to keep them going. It's great, and I pride myself on, being able to step outside of the fair industry if I need to keep going and keep things going, but I still want to be a part of making it better. I like sitting on committees in OABA or IAFE or that.
I do a lot of interviewing, and we have like about 8,000 pages online. Okay, so I do a lot of entertainers interviewing, and I try to help the fair industry wherever I can. Mm-hmm. Okay, Miss Heidi, how do people reach you if they want to book you?
HeidiHerriott.com or the RhinestoneCowgirls.com. Both URLs point to my website. I'm
curious now. What are the horses' names?
Okay, so I have my big Andalusian mare is Salsa, the dancing horse. And then I have Lecky Star. I have Lily Bell, Buckshot, and Little Rascal.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute. Okay, well, I wish you luck, and I hope you get some more bookings.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.